Good evening and welcome to Mining the Riches of the Parsha. Tonight is Thursday night, August 21st, 2025. Re'ei ani nosein lifnechem HaYom bracha uklala. The beginning of our Torah portion. See, God says, that I place before you today blessing and curse. So I heard this story from Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Weinreb. There's a man whose name is Rabbi Dov Cohen. Good evening. Join us. Please join us. But please come take some cholent. It's delicious. It's hot. Help yourself and come join us. Dov Cohen, a very interesting person. He was born at the beginning of the 1900s to a religious family in Seattle, Washington. Now, you must understand, in Seattle, Washington, in the early 1900s, there were very, very few religious Jews. And his mother was worried about him, that here he is, a religious Jewish boy, and he's growing up in this totally assimilated environment of America in the early 1900s. So she decided, it's incredible, she decided that the boy was 14 years old. She sent him to yeshiva in Israel, in Hebron. Now, Hebron, I don't have to tell you, in the early 1900s, it was about as primitive as it's possible to be. But there was a yeshiva there. And you may know that tragically in 1929, there was a pogrom. The Arabs attacked the people who were the Jews who were studying in the yeshiva. Many of them were killed. And somehow this young man, Dov Cohen, survived that attack. And he stayed in Israel. He stayed in Israel for the rest of his life. He studied Torah. He taught Torah. Gentlemen, welcome. Please help yourself to cholent. Help yourself. Help yourself to cholent. Come sit down. So I understand. I understand. So, but once in a while, he would go back to America to visit his family. He didn't like to go back to America because it was very assimilated and it was very materialistic, and he really didn't like it, but he went back once in a while. So it once happened that he went back to America and he was in New York, and he was in a taxi cab. It was on a Sunday morning. And the taxi driver had the radio on, and the radio was playing a sermon being delivered by a Christian minister in his church. Now, obviously, please help yourself to cholent, make yourself home. Now, obviously, Rabbi Dov Cohen was not interested in listening to a Christian minister, but the driver, welcome, take some cholent, have a seat, good to see you, welcome, welcome. But the driver was listening to this, this preacher. So he couldn't help it. He's listening to this Christian minister deliver his sermon. And this is what the sermon was about. The sermon was about a group of angels that was in charge of trying to get people to do sins. Again, this is a Christian minister. It's from their point of view, but this is the sermon, the story. So the story is there are these group of angels, and they're trying to figure out ways, how do we get people to do sins? So one of them said, well, I have an idea. Let's encourage people to steal, because stealing is a terrible sin. The other angel said that's not going to work, because there are laws against stealing. And even if a person doesn't mind doing a sin, they could get caught and they could be in trouble. They could be put in jail for stealing. So that's not going to work to try to get people to steal. Then another person said, let's try to convince people to lie. Lying is a terrible sin. If we can convince people to lie, it'll be fantastic. People will be doing so many sins. But then the other angels said, that's not going to work, because when a person lies, they feel guilty, and they're not going to do it. Finally, one of the angels comes up with a suggestion, and everybody agrees that this suggestion is the best suggestion. And the suggestion goes like this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to encourage people to do good deeds. We're going to encourage people to do acts of kindness and to give charity and to have courage and to act with justice. But we're going to tell them, don't do those things today, do them tomorrow. Now, Rabbi Cohen is listening to this sermon, and he is very inspired by it. Obviously, not by the Christian elements of it, but he retold this story through the course of his life, because it's a very, very important story. When a person has a feeling to do something good, they should act on it immediately. And even if a person has the idea that they're going to do something good, if they put it off, it could very well never happen. You could never get around to it. And that is exactly what our Torah portion is telling us. Re'eh anochi nosein lifnechem HaYom. See, God says, I am placing before you today bracha, blessing, uklola, and curse. In other words, I am placing the choices before you. If you do it today, it'll be a blessing. If you wait till tomorrow, it will be a curse. If you ever had the chance to do a mitzvah, to do a good deed, don't put it off. Because if you put it off, there's a chance you'll never do it. And the result will be the very different from a blessing. But a better idea is to do the mitzvah right away and not wait. I want to add an idea from Rabbi Eyal Vered. He is a rabbi in Israel. And he adds the following point. Do you realize that in the book of Dvarim, the 5th book of the Torah, the word HaYom today occurs 74 times? In one book, 74 times. HaYom. The most famous is our pasuk, Re'eh anochi nosein lifnechem HaYom, bracha uklala. Now, the truth is, you could read that sentence and leave the word HaYom out. See, I'm placing before you blessing and curse. Why does it have to say HaYom? Rabbi Vered explains that the word HaYom is so important because what HaYom means today, it means it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. If you do the right thing today, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. You can leave yesterday behind. And you don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. HaYom, focus on HaYom today. What mitzvah can I do today? If I can do a mitzvah today, that's what I should do. The fact that there is a HaYom is what makes it possible for a person to improve. Because if there was no HaYom, if there was no today, if every day was just like the next day, then I didn't do a mitzvah yesterday, so Why should I do a mitzvah today? And if I didn't do a mitzvah today, why should I do one tomorrow? Because it's all the same thing. No, HaYom, today is separate. It is distinct from yesterday. Yesterday I did what I did, but I have the opportunity, HaYom, to choose the bracha, to choose the blessing. Every day is a one-time occurrence. Every morning we make the bracha. Blessed are you, God, King of the universe. Lahavchim ben yom ben laila. You allow us to distinguish between day and night. What's the big deal? The big deal is to distinguish between day and night is to realize I have a new chance today. Today I can choose blessing. My grandfather, I've told you stories about my grandfather. My grandfather loved to play golf, and he loved to play golf with his grandchildren, and I also very much enjoyed playing golf with him. So people that play golf a lot, they have sayings, they have aphorisms. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're unique. One of the things my grandfather would say when someone would miss a shot or hit a bad shot, he would say, in golf, every hole is a new game. Now, literally speaking, that's not true if you're playing in the PGA for the tournament. But if you're playing just to have fun with your family, with your grandparents, and your grandchildren, so what if you messed up the last hole? This is a new hole. It's a new opportunity. Forget about that you had a bad shot before. Focus on HaYom. HaYom, the word HaYom today requires that today is separate from tomorrow. And that's why I must do it today. And it's separate from yesterday, which makes it possible for me to change. And that's what makes redemption possible. There's a rule in the Talmud, Masechta Ksuvos, that in a synagogue or in a public place, when there's a group who's doing a mitzvah, something like that, they should follow one minhag, one custom. And the Talmud says, Lo sasu agudos agudos. You shouldn't make yourselves into little groups. This group over here is doing one thing, and that group over there is doing another thing. It should be consistent. Because when there are different groups doing different things, it could lead to machlokas. It could lead to disagreements. Why are you doing it this way? This is the right way. No, this is the right way. There should be consistency. This is an example of where sometimes a person should submerge their own individual choice in order to lead to the harmony of the group. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes, depends what the issue is. Sometimes a person has to stand up for their principle, even if the group decides differently. But sometimes a person's got to be willing to say, I don't have to do it the way I always do it. I'm in a group. I'm going to do it the way the group does it.
Sounds like a marriage.
There's a powerful source of this rule in this week's Torah portion. The Torah says, Lo sisgodadu. Lo sisgodadu, and the Talmud interprets it as if it's saying, Lo sasu agudos agudos. Don't make separate groups within the same area. But that's not what lo sisgodadu means. It means something completely different. The Torah says as follows. The Torah says, Banim atem la Hashem Elokeichem. speaking to the Jewish people, you are God's children. You are a child of God. Banim atem laHashem Elokechem, you are a child of God. And therefore, lo sisgodadu, the word sisgodadu comes from the word gedida, a wound. Therefore, don't wound yourself. Don't harm yourself. V'lo sasimu karcha beineinechem lemeis. If God forbid somebody passes away, don't express your sadness by hurting yourself, by cutting yourself, or by harming yourself in some physical way. You may know in some cultures, different cultures, that people do this. When they are in mourning, they cut themselves with knives and they're bleeding. Okay, we don't do that. Why? So the Ibn Ezra explains. Once you understand that you are children of God, and God loves you more than a parent loves their child, therefore do not wound yourself, do not harm yourself, I'll call mashiyasa, for anything bad that happens. Ki kol asher yaseh letovu. Because the truth is that everything happens has an ultimate positive purpose. And af al ma sheyaseh, I'm sorry, I missed a line. V'im lo tevinuhu, and if we don't see it now, if we don't understand that this is actually something that is helpful to us, it should be like kasher lo yavinu habanim haktanim ma'asavim. Just like children don't understand when a parent does something to them. A parent disciplines a child. You have to go to sleep. You can't eat any more candy. Why is my mother being so cruel? I can't have a 12th piece of candy. I can't stay up till 3 in the morning. Why are they so cruel? But eventually children learn that what their parents say is for their own good. Kain tasu gamatem. And that's what you should do. So therefore, of course, someone we love passes away, we are sad. We're grieving. But we're not hysterical. We don't fall into despair such that, God forbid, we would wound ourselves. Now, once you understand the pasuk, now let's come back to the rabbi's interpretation of it. Lo sisgodadu. Don't wound yourself. Los sasu agudos. Don't make yourself into separate groups. Because when you separate into groups, when you separate from the norm of the congregation or the community in a way that might cause machlokes, you are causing a wound. You are causing an injury. And you are forgetting that banim atem laHashem Elokechem, that you are God's child, and God does not want you to hurt yourself in that way. Banim atem, you are a child of God, means that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I should not follow my own opinion of what I think is right. I should be mevater. I should be willing to relinquish in order to prevent a machlokas, an argument. Now, yes, it is true. Sometimes it may be hard to discern when is the right time to relinquish and when is the right time to stand up for principle. Yes, sometimes there could be a question about that. So it has to be a balance. But this has got to be one part of the balance. And Rabbi Yaakov Neuberger adds this last detail. The Parsha of Re'eh that we read this Shabbos, we always read just after Tisha B'Av and either on or just before Rosh Chodesh Elul, the beginning of the month of Elul. And when we remember how much we suffered because of the machlokes, because of the disputations and the arguing between Jews that led to the tragedy of Tisha B'Av. And when we think about how we need to fix that as we approach the month of Elul and get ready for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we should really remember this. Los isgodedu, los sasu agudos. Don't do something that may cause an argument, because that causes a wound, an injury to the body of the Jewish people. We have to remember when we need to be willing to sacrifice, to be mevater, to relinquish in order to preserve harmony. Okay, I want to tell you a story. I heard this story from Rabbi Biderman, and it's a story about the Tosher Rebbe. Now, the Tosher Rebbe was Rabbi Meshulam Lowy, and for decades, he led the Tosh Hasidim. It is a relatively small group of Hasidim. Their outlook and their practices are somewhat similar to Satmar. Obviously, Satmar is much larger, Tosh is smaller, and the Tosh Hasidim live in an enclave near Boisbriand, just north of Montreal. So the Tosher Rebbe, Rav Meshulam Lowy, passed away in 2015. And he was succeeded by his son, Elimelech. Reb Elimelech Lowy is the current Tosher Rebbe. So whenever you say Tosher Rebbe, you need to distinguish between the current Tosher Rebbe, that's Elimelech, and his father, who was Meshulam. Reb Meshulam, the previous Tosher Rebbe, led his community of Hasidim for many decades. And the Rebbe, like in other Hasidic groups, he was the central figure for everyone in his community. He was teaching, he was guiding, he was inspiring, and he was included in decision-making for individuals and certainly for the community. So Rabbi Biderman tells the following story about the Tosher Rebbe, the previous Tosher Rebbe, Reb Meshulam Lowy. In Tosh, and it's true today, there are schools for all the children. There are lots and lots of children. And there's a boys' high school. And the principal of the boys' high school had a student who was not doing well. This boy was very difficult, disruptive. And they tried everything with the parents and with counselors, and whatever they tried, the situation deteriorated. And it was causing harm to other students. This boy was causing harm to other students. And so the administration of the school decided together, they decided that the boy had to be removed from the school. There was no alternative. But in order to remove a boy from the school, they needed permission from the Tosher Rebbe, because the Tosher Rebbe had the final word on any such important decision. So the principal went to meet with the Tosher Rebbe. And he said, Tosher Rebbe, I want to explain to you the situation with this boy, what he's done, the things that he did that got him in trouble. He explained what they had tried to do to help him. He explained that this boy was now a negative influence on the other boys. They had no solution in sight, and the staff of the school, the administration of the school, had all decided that the boy needs to be removed from the school, and they were coming to ask his permission, can we remove this boy from the school? So the Tosher Rebbe sat deep in thought, For a long time, he didn't say anything. And so finally, the principal said, what does the Rebbe say? What's your answer to the question that I'm asking you? And the Tosher Rebbe says, if this boy did as you told me, then he must be sent away. So the principal asks, so we should send him away. That's what you're saying, right? We should send him away. Because when you go to ask the Rebbe and you need his answer, it's got to be explicit. It can't be like inferred or, Rashi's opinion and Tosha's. It's got to be clear. So the principal says, should we expel him? Tosher Rebbe didn't answer. He sat and he thought. So the principal asked the question in a slightly different way. The principal asked the question, Tosher Rebbe, what should we do with this boy? So the Tosher Rebbe said, if he did these things, he must be expelled. So should we expel him? But the Tosher Rebbe just sat quietly, thinking to himself. And obviously by now the principal gets the idea there's something else going on here. He's not willing to give me a clear answer. And so the principal asks the question in a different way. The principal says, Tosher Rebbe, what is the Rebbe thinking about? What's going on in your mind? And the Tosher Rebbe said to the principal, I'm thinking to myself, if you would have presented this question to me differently, if you would have told me that there's a boy who is harming others and there's no way to help him and he needs to be expelled, and then I would have asked you what is the name of this boy, and you would have told me the name of the boy is Elimelech. Remember, Elimelech is his own son, who is now the Rebbe, who of course certainly never got in trouble. But if you would tell me that the boy that's causing the trouble is Elimelech, what I'm thinking to myself is, would I also tell you to expel him if it was my son? And then the Tosher Rebbe said, I feel like this boy is my son. And I cannot tell you to send him away because he's my son. The principal left the Tosher Rebbe. He went back to the school and he met privately with this boy and he told this boy the whole story. He said that we decided, the administration of the school, we decided that you should be expelled. But I went to confirm that the Tosher Rebbe would agree. But the Tosher Rebbe told me that he feels like you are his son and he cannot agree to expelling you. So the boy was astounded. The Tosher Rebbe knows everything that I did wrong. You told the Tosher Rebbe everything I did wrong. So he knows everything that I did wrong. And he knows the harm that I caused. And he still feels like I am his son? And this boy's behavior transformed overnight. And today, this is one of the distinguished Jews in Tosh. This is so important for teachers to understand and for parents to understand, and it's applicable in many areas of life. But the most important application of this is the words in our Torah portion. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokecha. You are a child of God. I am a child of God. And God has a feeling for me, and God has a feeling for every single one of you that goes beyond what a human parent feels for a child. Banim atem l'Hashem Elokecha. Let's never forget that. And let's always act with that truth. My friends, I wish you a great evening and a beautiful Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.